All right, so I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news here, but here's the reality. Unless you're a genetic outlier who just naturally has an easier time staying lean, or you've got some kind of pharmaceutical assistance on your side, 10% body fat is likely not a very good goal as far as year-round conditioning is concerned. The fitness industry has really done a fantastic job of warping people's perception in terms of what it actually means to be lean, and the plain fact is that 10% body fat is just flat out too lean for most men. Now, this has nothing to do with encouraging laziness or settling for mediocrity like some people might think. It's just about making a logical cost-benefit analysis and understanding that in the vast majority of cases, the overall downsides of maintaining a very lean physique pretty clearly outweigh the upsides. Now, keep in mind that I'm just speaking in general terms here, since body fat percentages can never be measured with 100% accuracy, and genetics are a factor as well. So I'm not saying this applies to every single person, but what I am saying is that it applies to most natural lifters out there who are not genetically elite and who don't make a living from their physique. And in this video today, I'm going to give you 5 important points to consider on this, and then I'll explain what I recommend you do instead. And I don't want to sound overly dramatic here, but this kind of shift in thinking literally can be life-changing for some people. So if you spend any amount of time consuming fitness content, looking at physiques online, and where maintaining a reasonably lean physique feels like an important goal to you, I'd highly recommend that you don't skip this over, because these are 5 key things you really need to be aware of. And let me know in the comments which one of these resonates with you the most. All right, point number 1 is that a true 10% body fat is actually way leaner than most people think. So many out there talk casually about being 10% body fat like it's no big deal. You know, anyone can write in an online comment section that they're currently sitting at 10% or even lower than that, but in reality, most people way overestimate how lean they truly are.
It was negative numbers. It was -2.
I've been doing this online fitness stuff for over a decade and a half at this point, and after going through countless thousands of comments and physique photos, I'd say that if you really want to know someone's true body fat percentage, you're usually best off to just take whatever they quote themselves as online and add at least 3 to 5% to it. I see people all the time claiming that they're 8% body fat when they're more like 12%, or 12% when they're literally like 20% plus. A legitimate 10% body fat is very, very lean. Okay, clearly defined six-pack with no significant excess abdominal fat aside from just a tiny little pinch, an overall dry and carved out look, striations, at least in some areas, vascularity, sharp, almost sunken facial features. It's really lean. So right off the bat, let's acknowledge that for most lifters out there, their idea of 10% body fat is probably more like 12, 13, 14% in reality. This is me at roughly 10% here, and while I'm definitely not shredded, it's probably decently leaner than most other people who claim to be 10% body fat are. So if your idea of 10% body fat is actually 12 to 14%, then sure, that's probably doable. But if your goal is to actually be a true 10% body fat year round, that's a much different story. The second point to consider, assuming we're talking about a true 10% body fat, is that the difficulty of getting leaner doesn't operate in a straight linear fashion for each percentage point that you want to drop. And instead, it operates more on a curve where once you hit around the mid-teens body fat percentage-wise, getting increasingly leaner at that point becomes disproportionately more challenging for each point that you try to drop further. At the end of the day, body fat is a stored form of energy. Your body requires a certain amount for optimal functioning, and the more you try to get rid of that fat once you're already pretty lean, the harder and harder your body's going to fight back to hold on to the remaining amount, and the more uncomfortable the symptoms are going to get in terms of hunger, mental food focus, energy, strength, mood, concentration, libido. It affects a lot of different areas. I don't care how much volume eating you do, or how much extra walking you try to get in per day, or how much coffee and sparkling water you drink to effortlessly get down to single-digit body fat Hollywood physique levels. Those things will help out to a certain degree, but when it all comes down to it, you can't outsmart those basic evolutionary survival mechanisms. Your body knows when it's in an energy deficit and to what degree, and 10% body fat is just too far outside the optimal zone for most people to maintain on an ongoing basis, unless they're willing to permanently feel like crap, essentially. And it's not just that you won't feel good physiologically, but keep in mind that all of those dieting related side effects are also going to negatively impact basically every other area of your life, whether it's work, school, social life, sex life, other hobbies and pursuits you might have outside of fitness. When you're going through your day and you feel tired and hungry and your mood and your mental functioning is suppressed and all you can think about is getting to that next meal, weight training and cardio aside, that's also going to spill over into everything else that you do. Whatever other goals and pursuits that you have outside of fitness will suffer too, to where unless you're making a living from your physique, the cost to benefit ratio just doesn't make sense. The third point to keep in mind is that 10% body fat is also nowhere near as common as you might think. Now, the fact that something isn't common doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for it, of course. I mean, maybe that makes you even more motivated to strive for it, but most people out there who spend a lot of time consuming online fitness content definitely have a distorted idea where they see all these people maintaining 8 to 10% body fat all year, and so they think it must not be that difficult or be all that big of a deal. But the issue with online fitness, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, is that generally speaking, what you're seeing represents the very tail end of the bell curve in terms of muscularity and leanness. These platforms are based on pushing the content that generates the most attention and engagement, and of course that's going to be the most extraordinary physiques of everything that's out there. And so when you're scrolling through the Explore feed and those top tier physiques are 90% plus of what shows up, it rewires your perception to where you think those kinds of physiques are much more common than they really are, when actually it's the top 0.0001% that you're seeing over and over. And usually that's going to be people with favorable genetics whose lives revolve heavily around fitness and where they actually earn money from their physique, like it's literally their job to be lean. PED use is a factor, not to mention filters and angles and editing and all that good stuff, which usually makes people look a lot leaner than they truly are in real life. By the way, if you're finding this helpful so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on future videos. But do keep in mind that outside of this concentrated little online bubble, in the real world, almost no one in your day-to-day life is maintaining a true 10% body fat on a permanent basis. Temporarily for a photo shoot or a competition, sure, but just go and take a look around the gym. Forget out on the street, even with random people who don't even lift, but even at the gym, you will rarely see a natural lifter with good muscular development who is also 10% body fat all the time. Very rare, unless maybe you train at some popular fitness influencer concentrated gym, which sounds pretty terrible to be honest anyway. And on top of how rare it is, also keep in mind that even for the people who legitimately are 10% or lower, all you're seeing is what's on the surface, but not what's beneath it. You don't know how much a lot of these people are struggling deep down, how much pressure they might feel, or what their physical and mental health is truly like. Body image issues, eating disorders, this kind of stuff is actually pretty rampant in the fitness industry, and you'd be surprised that behind the big smile in that Instagram flexing beach photo, a lot of those people are actually fucking miserable, but you'd never know it until they finally come out with their "how trying to stay shredded ruined my life" confession video. And I'll give you my actual recommended body fat range to avoid these negative consequences in a second here, so make sure to stick with me. Point number 4 is that you can also make the argument that despite everything we just talked about, 10% body fat doesn't even necessarily look better in the first place compared to carrying slightly more body fat. Now, obviously, this is a subjective thing and different people will have different opinions, but I don't think there's any doubt that no matter where you sit on the healthy body fat spectrum, there's always going to be pros and cons. At a very lean body fat percentage, you'll have more muscle definition, obviously, vascularity, six-pack abs. You'll look bigger and more impressive when you're shirtless or in a tank top and also in photos and videos. But on the other hand, also keep in mind that you're going to lose a decent amount of muscle fullness along with it. In normal clothes, which is probably how you spend the majority of your day, you're going to look a lot less impressive, possibly even to the point of barely looking like you lift, depending on just how lean you are and how much muscle you're carrying. Your face is also going to have a more depleted, sucked down appearance. Some people like that, I definitely don't. I also find that my neck area shrinks down quite a bit. So just remember that there's actually no perfect body fat level, in the sense that slightly higher body fat will give you less definition but more size, whereas lower body fat will give you more definition but less size. So you can't just look at the upsides of one given outcome without also taking into account the downsides as well. And then finally, point number 5 is to remember that if you're trying to maintain 10% body fat on an ongoing basis, don't expect to be putting on any real muscle during that time. Building muscle requires energy, and at a permanent 10% body fat, your calorie intake is not going to be high enough to properly fuel that process, nor do you have enough energy reserves available in the form of stored fat to fuel it either. Your body is a survival machine, and you can't just endlessly recomp and swap out body fat calories for new muscle. At some point, once you reach a certain level of leanness, fat preservation becomes the priority for your body, and unless you're willing to eat more and sacrifice a bit of that leanness, you're just going to come to a standstill as far as muscle growth is concerned. So if you're a novice to intermediate intermediate lifter who has definite goals of wanting to put on more muscle and strength, trying to maintain 10% body fat year round is a fantastic way to spin your wheels and get absolutely nowhere. So those are the 5 key points I wanted to share in regards to maintaining 10% body fat. Let me know below which one you agree with most. And now the question is, what should you do instead? Okay, what level of body fat should you realistically aim for? Well, again, keep in mind that body fat percentages are just estimates, but after being in the fitness space for the past 15 years and coaching a ton of people and observing and interacting with other experts and other lifters in the gym and looking at the research and the statistics, plus taking my own personal experience into account as well, I would say that about 12% body fat is as lean as most guys can realistically sustain on an ongoing basis, and even that can be pretty challenging for some people and doesn't guarantee optimal physical and mental functioning. The reality is that 12% body fat actually puts you in the top 1% of the overall population in terms of leanness, and I'd say it's probably right at the border to where trying to go lower really starts tipping the balance and to where the input becomes less and less worth the output. The side effects combined with the amount of restriction involved turns it into a 24/7 job more or less, and it starts to become a net negative for your life as a whole. Yes, you'll look impressive, but looking impressive is not everything without taking all other areas into account. So 12% I'd put as the general cutoff in most cases, and from there, if having that leaner, more aesthetic look is still important to you, up to about 15% will still look very good if you have sufficient muscular development to go along with it. Keep in mind that the more muscle you carry, the leaner you're going to appear with a bit more body fat, which is just another reason why you need to commit to those definite gaining phases versus trying to stay lean year round, since in the long run, it'll actually allow you to sit at a slightly higher body fat while still looking just as lean. So taking all factors into account, I'm pretty confident in saying that about 12 to 15% body fat is going to be the sweet spot where you'll have the optimal balance between muscle fullness and muscle definition while also feeling your best physically and mentally. You'll look great without a shirt, you'll still have enough fullness to look impressive in a shirt, excessive hunger and food focus won't be a problem, strength, energy, cognitive functioning, mood, libido, those will all be on point. You'll be less likely to fall into that overly neurotic body dysmorphia trap of obsessing over every ounce of fat you gain or lose, and you'll still have good overall lifestyle freedom as well. You can go out and eat with your friends, you don't have to micromanage every single calorie. Going on a trip is no big deal, and if you do happen to gain a bit of extra fat, it's also very easy to get back on track. It'll just put you into a healthier, more balanced headspace overall. If you want to go lower than 12% temporarily for whatever reason, then fine, whether it's for a photo shoot, vacation, or just as a personal challenge. And if you want to go even higher than that, up to as much as maybe 18 to 20%, that's okay too, depending on your goals and preferences. But 12 to 15%, that's going to be just right if you want both an impressively lean and muscular physique that you can actually sustain long term without revolving your entire existence around your training and diet. If you want some more help getting your overall fitness program onto the right track, whether your goal is to achieve 12 to 15% body fat or you're mainly focused on gaining muscle right now, make sure to visit seannell.com/custom. Just fill out the short form on that page and I'll send you back a free step-by-step training program based on your current condition and goals, along with an easy to follow nutrition plan as well. The link for that is in the description box. When it comes to effective supplementation, you can also visit realscienceathletics.com to check out my own line of research-backed, clinically dosed formulas I personally created from scratch to maximize your results, and you can use code YouTube15 to save 15% off your first order. Here are 2 more videos I'd recommend watching now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you again soon.